Welcome to the Book Angle, where we talk about books from different angles and sometimes go in circles. I'm Anna, and this is Sabrina. And today we're going to be talking about another witchy book. And I have my witchy hat
I love
that
your
does
witchy hat.
not
I
fit
love
over
how
my
it fits.
headphones.
Yeah, I love how honestly, I feel like the hat plus headphones matches the vibe of Glamour Falls because it's set in our world with
It
those
is set
witches.
in our world, but it's like fantasy. So
It's not that the hat's just not working. It was intentional.
I kind of look
Good
like
job.
a gnome from this perspective because you can't see the pointed tip.
I
A
love
little
it.
garden gnome.
You're a garden witch.
A garden witch.
And
Yes.
speaking of garden witches, today we're going to be doing a book review on A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. I'm pumped. You ready?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. So if you were to look at the back of the book, you would be able to read an overview of the entire book. So feel free to pause if you want the full description. But in summary, Mariel Spark, that's our main protagonist in the book. She is a witch set in Glimmer Falls who's really struggling with her magic. And one piece of evidence of the struggle is she tries to do a summoning spell. She just really wants some flour. And instead she summons Ozroth the Ruthless, a demon instead. And this demon wants to have her soul because he's a bargainer, and basically that's what the book centers around. He wants her soul and she accidentally summoned him, and she's
He
not
can't,
willing. Yeah.
yeah, he can't leave until the bargain is complete. And she's not about to give up her soul.
Yeah.
So
And of course, since he can't leave and there's forced proximity and they're so different and unique, there has to be romance.
yeah. Yeah.
So that is our summary of the book. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
go ahead.
gotta hate it when you're trying to summon some flour and you get a demon instead. It's really
Especially when he's
convenient.
like hunky and cute, right?
Yeah, so inconvenient.
Man. And close close quarters. Um So if you're new to our channel, if you haven't checked out our book review rubric, we always try to review our books with these five categories, just to try to be as, objective as possible. So we go through characterization, plot development, and progression, author's voice, believability, and then we're a little bit biased with our general reading experience because reading needs to be fun for you. So, Anna, characterization.
Okay, so after some discussion, I have come to today with my 3 for characterization because I was gonna settle with a 4. Um and it's hard for me because a lot of my dislike for these characters was just because they were bland. So one-dimensional. Main characters were consistent, their motivations were clear. Um It just didn't have a lot of personality for me beyond wanting to, like, sleep together. And um, I had a hard time connecting with them on a deeper level as a character, and then when we looked at the side characters, I especially had a hard time connecting with them because they were very one-dimensional, very stereotypical, kinda cliché, and just, like, you've got the overbearing mother, and if you've read any book with an overbearing mother, you could switch her out for this one and book wouldn't change. And same with the best friends. There's 2 best friends and they kind of fit those stereotypical roles of one is like really overbearing, one is the popular kid, or over like controlling friendship, I guess, and the popular kid. And yeah, there was not a lot here with the characters to make me be like, yeah, I love them. So a 3.
So for me, I was leaning more towards a 4, and I am going to give it a 4 because I think that the main characters, Mariel and Ozroth, I think they are well-rounded. I think they are interesting, and I think that their motivations are clear. Ozroth wants to make a bargain. Well, he needs to. and Mariel is not going to. And so I think that those things and the decisions that they make are very clear. But, as you and I talked about, most of the side characters, they were just so unbelievably flat that
Mhm.
that complete lack of depth could not give it a 5 at all. Because it was a little bit sad, because if it was Mariel and or not Ozroth, yeah, Mariel and Ozroth, they I don't want to say they stole the show, but I was connecting with them. But then when their friends were involved, or their family was involved, or anyone else was involved, I'm like, are you friends with these people? They're so boring. Like, why do you like them? And I feel like there are especially moments where Mariel's hanging out with her friends, and they're supposed to have a sweet moment. And I'm like, this is okay. I'm glad that you guys drink milkshakes on your girls' night, and that's it. So yeah, I would still give it a 4, because I liked the main characters and I thought that the motivations were clear, but there is room for complexity for the other people.
Mhm.
And before we move on, look at that. Look at your Ozroth. His
Yeah.
has horns.
I had to add the horns in. Those are a separate graphic than the guy graphic.
I was like, where did you find this?
Yeah, I added those in, but yeah.
Wow,
He's
yeah.
confused. He's like, "Why am I here?" I'm like, "I don't know."
And Mariel is like,
I
don't
love
know.
plants.
Very cute. Plot development.
Okay, so despite the fact that I did not really vibe with the characters that well, I do think that the plot is a 4 because it is like you're hitting all the beats of a Hallmark movie here. And we take a little bit
Hallmark,
of
but rated R.
right, and that's what I was about to say is we have Hallmark, and then we take a little bit of a break for about 20% of the book, around halfway through, so we can have a lot of bedtime, or bedroom time, I should say, and also in the woods and like other places that, yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of spicy, and it kind of was like, let's forget the plot for a minute just so we can get our hands on each other. And then we went back to the plot, and that felt a little jarring in the sense that it was like so much at once. But generally besides that, it was fine. And I yeah, it worked well.
I felt that the plot was engaging and well structured, especially I've been reading some books lately where I feel like the plot is all over the place and it doesn't have that sense of direction. So I think that knowing exactly what was supposed to come, similar like you said, a Hallmark movie, I know how the book is going to start and I know how it's going to end, but I'm having a good time and I'm interested in getting to the end. I thought that the pacing was appropriate. It just wasn't one of those things, because the distinction that we have between our 4 and our 5, especially if you're looking at the summary at the bottom, which I know it's hard to see, sorry guys, but I wasn't sad that it was over. Like when it ended, I was like, okay, but I liked it. So I feel like our summary of these categories works really well for me, but I would give it a 4. I thought it was paced really well, especially in comparison to some of these other books we've been reading.
Yeah. So author's voice, for me it was a 4 because it was there. Like that's a terrible way to describe it. The tone is generally great, engaging and appropriate. That's true. It provided a little bit of depth and interest. It wasn't too like the voice didn't stand out a whole lot on its own, which is why it's a 4, but I felt like it was an appropriate Hallmark happy tone without being anything incredible. And that's
Yeah,
where I'm at
Anna
on
and I
this.
actually talked about this before when we were planning for this video, because at first I was like, well, it's a 5. It's a generic Hallmark book. Every book that is written this way is written exactly in the same way. However, I do feel like when we think about the tone and creating a sense of connection with the reader, another book that we read recently was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And Anna pointed out, like, wait, we both thought that was a lot like light and airy and fun. And so we're talking about creating that connection with the reader. In that book, I felt like I was getting coffee with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I thought that we gave Author's Voice a 5. In this book, that connection with the reader is it's almost a little bit distant. That's why it goes from a 5 to a 4, because this almost feels like something that was a movie, something that you put on the TV and you just watch it and it's kind of there, but you're not necessarily having that strong bond that you get whenever you pick up a really awesome book with a really strong author's voice. So our synopsis, you two got a good thing going. I feel like you're off to a good start.
Yeah.
And it could have been a little bit different. But I still think it was pretty solid for the book that we were reading.
Yeah.
Believability.
So I feel like the world that we are set in is very believable. It's our world, but fantasy. And there is, like centaurs and werewolves and pixies and all of these other fantasy creatures that live alongside humans
And
and
they
are
look like you with your hat.
yeah. And are
You fit
intermixed
right in.
and it's like just the, same world with the same technology, but magic and all of these creatures exist. And Glimmer Falls felt very Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls, very much that. And it was, yeah, like the setting was believable. I felt like I didn't have any questions about the demon plane either. We got the information that we needed for the story to make sense. The only reason I'm giving this a 4 instead of a 5 is because the ending felt like we had some inconsistencies with character decisions, where we had some characters that did some things where I'm like, okay, I feel like you made that decision simply so we could all have a happy ending, and not because that was like the development we were seeing of their character. It just was like, oh yeah, okay, that's a change
Yeah.
that you didn't see coming, and there was nothing to really give you evidence that change was going to happen.
Yeah, initially there were two things that I did not find very believable. One, they fell in love real fast.
Yeah, it
I
is
forgot how
insta
many
love.
days. How many days?
It was 3 days before things start happening, but
Yeah.
they
So,
were attracted to each other within the first 24 hours, and like,
which
oh,
I mean,
I'm lusty for you.
again, there was a hunky demon in her kitchen.
Yeah, and she
So,
hadn't slept with anybody for 5 years, so that was an important plot point.
um, I forgot about that, but yes. So I felt like I was going to move past that, because even though the love happened really, really fast, I believed their actions, and I believed in their love. Like, I understood why it happened. I understood like the yin and yang. I feel like it made sense. So I was going to move past it. It was going to get a 5. And then I finished the book. It's a good ending. Don't be alarmed.
Yeah.
However, especially these side characters, the ones that we told you were unbelievably flat, they are like, JK, I'm changing everything. I'm going to make this decision. And then you're just sitting there like, that does not match your earlier and consistent personality. So I feel like they were trying to make that personality change, and some of those decisions just, it missed the mark. So it went from a 5 to a 4 for me. But the world building is really good. I thought it gave exactly what you needed, and I believed them for the most part.
Yeah, and I will say it's funny to me reading this after Fourth Wing. I felt like this book was so much more believable than Fourth Wing in like every single way.
Yeah.
However, Fourth Wing was a more enjoyable read for me.
Yeah. Well,
which brings us to a reading experience, which was a 2 for me. Because I got bored, and I don't know if I would have pushed through to finish this book if we were not reviewing it, because I was that like, I just don't care about these characters. It's very bland, and that is not like to say Hallmark is bland or that Spice is bland, because it sure was not. But I just could not connect with the characters. And it was not for like lack of motivation on their part or lack of like characterization or anything like that. It was just not my vibe. And that's fine, but it was a 2 for me.
So I feel like I was really struggling with this because if you look at the category for a 4, I enjoyed reading the book and was consistently engaged. I was different from Anna because I was like, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm engaged. It was a satisfying and enjoyable read for me because especially when we're thinking about all of like the spice that we're referring to, I'm already someone when I'm getting a spicy book, I'm just like, and I just like kind of skim past everything. I hope you all liked that sound effect. But anyway, I do skip past some of those things. And because all of the spicy time was condensed to one section, I was able to just move a little fast through that. And so I liked it. I thought it was good. But here's the issue for me. Our synopsis of the 4 was I recommend it. And again, this because of the spice and the amount of spice, the descriptions of the spice, I don't want this book on my personal record, right? But here we are on YouTube. And I was telling you, I'm like, my mother-in-law, who's so sweet and very supportive, she watches this channel. And I'm like, I can't recommend this. But the author does have this overview or this dedication to my parents. Thank you for fostering my curiosity and creativity and for cheering me on no matter what odd things I decide to write. Please only read the redacted version I provided to you. I love that.
Yeah.
I opened up this book and I giggled and I'm like, oh no, what are we getting into? If I had the redacted version, it would be a 4. But because I don't want this on my record, and because my mother-in-law is watching, it's gonna get a 3.5 for me. 3.5.
I do wonder how much shorter that version of the book is. Like, is it like a solid 100-page shorter? I'm so curious.
I feel like the spicy scenes actually weren't as long in compare because we've read other books like this where it has just the same amount of spice, but it's more scattered throughout.
Yeah.
The difference is it's graphic. Like you learn a lot about a lot. And because of that, I don't actually feel like it would condense that much, but I think it feels like that much because it was like 4 back to back moments.
It was very intense.
Yeah.
It was very intense. Okay.
So yeah, so 3.5 for me in that. So wait, math wizard.
I'm the math wizard. And I got my trusty calculator here. 17 divided by 5 is 3.4. So I will round down to a 3 because that sounds right.
So, have you read this book yet? Did you like it? What would you rate it? What do you think?
Yeah. Do you agree with us? If you have read it?
Yeah.
Are you intrigued? Or are you like, nah, not for me? I'm curious.
I do feel like I understand why this book would be intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
But
the premise is very interesting. And if you like Hallmark, but you really want your Hallmark to have heavy spice interspersed, this is the book for you. And if you don't want graphic sex, then don't read this book.
and dun, 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 dun.
Like and subscribe for more.
Bravo. Bye, y'all.
Bye.